Welcome to Koffee Talks, a Pokemon card collecting podcast, featuring David Person, owner of the world's most complete English Pokemon card collection, and Dan Norton, a longtime collector with all the knowledge behind the cards.
Daniel Norton, I've got a beef with you, my friend, and I'm glad we can get right into this. I don't have any time to waste at all because yesterday we did this video and this morning you posted it, and then I watched the video to see what in God's tarnation you've done with the editing of the video. And I find out that my two best buddies behind me right now, God, I hope you can see them because with you, you never know. You do a whole video. I tell you there's some people behind me and you don't even include them in the whole video. You have just me and they're much more handsome and cute than I am. And they weren't even in the visuals. And then you did one quick scene of them in the visuals, and Psyduck and Pokemon Pikachu guy were not happy at all. Do you want to explain yourself at all, what you were thinking?
Well, I changed the overlay. I was trying to make it so that there's more of the screen is taken up by our two video feeds. That was a recommendation I got back from someone. So I changed that around. I think it looks nicer overall, but hopefully you've got them close enough behind you today where I can get them to both stay in the shot for the whole video.
Gosh, I hope so, Dan. That would be nice. It'd be nice if you actually cared about your podcast partner every once in a while and just not yourself and your own personal overlay.
Yeah.
Dan, I think we both know that I've been depressed lately as my life is quickly coming to an end with only 7,660 days left. There are some things that we need to get off our chest, but first I thought we'd start with a couple of lighthearted things. For those of you that don't know me, because of mental illness with respect to eating issues and things like that, I'm a big fan, a big proponent, or I'm forced to intermittently fast for most of the day. And so what I've done to try to help both my marriage and my hobby spending is I've actually applied that now to my hobby spending. I'm intermittently fasting and I'm only buying Pokemon cards after 5 p.m. at night. And I don't really have results on that yet and how that's going to work out, but I'm hopeful it's going to be good. So I'll keep you posted. Do any of you guys do anything like that? I think that can be a good way to just kind of gauge yourself from a budget perspective. But let me know in the comments if you think I'm crazy or you think I'm actually onto something here. And then I saw something funny. You guys know that when I see something funny, I like to mention it. So here's what someone wrote about the Destined Rivals Pokemon Center ETB situation. And we're going to talk about that today. That's today's topic, Destined Rivals and all the chaos that's going on out there right now with Destined Rivals. But here's what they wrote. They said, whoever bought an ETB on eBay for $1,000, do you want to talk? Do you feel safe at home? I thought that was literally hilarious, okay? So anyways, but then again, Dan, you don't think anything I think is funny. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, I love that, Dan. Thank you. And you know what? That's why so many different people make the world go round. Dan, today we're going to talk about Destined Rivals. It is crazy. Is it a positive situation? Is it a negative situation? Obviously, we alluded to it yesterday that the drop happened and you got yourself an ETB. And what people should understand is with Pokemon and the Pokemon Center, the only thing you really want to get from there, there are people that buy everything from there because they can. But generally speaking, the thing that you want there more than anything is a Pokemon Center ETB because that's what's exclusive to the Pokemon Center. And so in the last 24 hours, if you were looking at all of the different perspectives on what happened yesterday, from the chaos of the queues and people that waited for hours and didn't get things, to the chaos of the queues for people who waited for hours and did actually get something, to the people that are mad because they watched actual content creators go on and were able on live streaming and were able to buy more than one thing. Will they get canceled? I don't know. Some people thought that content creator was greedy and going back for a second one when other people couldn't get any. To the fact that now it has been confirmed that certain orders are being canceled and have been canceled. We've seen the screens of that. And that was something that was talked about because just to give you an idea of the numbers, at some point when they read the queues of how many people were in the queue, there were over 2 million people in the queue. Now, were some of those bots? It's not sure. Do those queues refresh as people are going through and all of a sudden it's 100,000 and it whittles its way down to 0 or whatever and then some other people add to the queue? All we know is, yes, there were a ton of people looking for that product. And we know that some of those people got actual your order was confirmed, and sometimes maybe there's another word like your order was created or something. We don't know if those people have actually got confirmations yet. What's interesting is that the print runs for the last, and again, there's these people, content creators that work behind the scenes. Maybe they've hacked into the systems to get the data. Maybe they have contacts. But the print run for Prismatic Evolutions ETBs was 165,000 ETBs at the Pokemon Center. And the print run for Journey Together ETBs was 120,000 at the Pokemon Center. I haven't seen yet what the numbers are supposed to be for Destined Rivals. But based on what Dan had said in our conversation a couple of days ago, very astute comments regarding Pokemon being able to ramp up as they can see this demand happening, it's been, believed that there might be extra printing going on, leading to what happened yesterday, that more people were able to get their orders filled. And I feel like that's what I saw. I feel like despite everybody's frustration, for those of us that had to wait and get nothing, it sure seemed like a lot more people got orders than I've seen previously. Now, the problem is we don't know actually how much was printed, how much was supposed to be printed, and did the orders work successfully, in that they're not going to be canceled, because now we've actually seen people receive stuff that says your order's been canceled. Let me complicate that to another level further. Whether or not you guys have seen this or not, on the frequently asked questions on the Pokemon Center page, it actually addresses the Destined Rivals Pokemon Center ETBs. And it says, we want you to know that we will be reprinting these later this year. So let's think about that. If you knew that you were going to reprint them later this year, which is a big commitment for them to actually say, we don't know what kind of impact that's going to make. But if you knew you were going to do that, would you actually take the time and effort to go through and start canceling people's ETBs? Or would you maybe kind of leave them out there a little bit longer to see if you might be able to incorporate them later on in something else that you were planning to do? Maybe even send a message to them so they wouldn't just feel completely devastated that they had waited for an hour and a half, got something, and now you're canceling it. So the question here, when I started to prepare for this video yesterday, I started to think about, I thought this was kind of a good thing. I thought it was a good thing that had gone on at the Pokemon Center. We knew that there was a chance they might cancel things if they inadvertently let people on that site too long to order based on what they actually anticipated. Because what was the anticipation supposed to be? If it was 165,000 Prismatic, 120 for Journey Together, was it 200,000 PC ETBs for Destined Rivals? I don't know. No one knows at this moment.
Where are you getting those numbers from?
These numbers are coming from content creators on the internet that again, I've chosen so far, Dan, not to name them. What I'm trying to do, folks who are watching, is I'm trying to be a place where you can watch daily developments with Dan and I, where I've done all the work and Dan has done all the work of watching all of what's going on out there. I've reviewed 10, 15, 20 videos, so essentially you don't have to. And I will not put anything out there that's not real. I don't watch one video and tell you what someone says. I'm looking at screens, I'm looking at where it's coming from, I'm looking at the content creator and understanding how legitimate they are or not. Again, I'm an old guy and I know who's telling the truth and who's not.
Where are they getting the number from? Because Pokemon doesn't announce print run sizes. So where have they got the number from?
I believe that it's behind the scenes in some fashion. I believe that's why some of these content creators don't reveal who they are. Again, when you listen to my words, you'll figure out that I'm hinting, because that might be the name of somebody, but they don't reveal who they are to keep themselves protected. And yet the numbers are very clear and very succinct, and you can see exactly what these numbers are. And so the point here is, now you take that and you have some other content creators that are saying, hey, this was a complete and utter blank show. And I didn't feel that way, because I had an open mind to think, hey, well, they sure got a lot out there. And even today, other people came out and said, we see more cancellations. And then we see this message now from the Pokemon Center. And so it's a little bit of mixed data. The thing that I want to get into, and I'm going to let Dan talk about this in a minute, is how do we know? How are we going to ultimately know how much they printed? If we're fortunate enough to have these other content creators continue to give us the behind the scenes numbers, that's one thing. But then you have to also balance that with the demand for the set, right? There's some people that think that Destined Rivals is going to be the greatest set ever. They thought the same thing about Prismatic Evolutions. They thought that about 151. They thought that about Evolving Skies. Is every set better and better? Is the 30th anniversary set going to be better? And so I went through and did a non-scientific and unscientific review of prismatic evolutions, for example, based on when they were released and today. I took some snapshots of how many boxes are listed out there on eBay and TCG Player, Pokemon Center ETBs. And I did the same thing for Journey Together. Now, TCG Player doesn't really have them out there yet, but eBay does. As you guys know, a lot of people take their boxes that they think they get a confirmation for, they immediately go to eBay, complete and utter scalping, they jump in front of all the collectors, get the boxes, and put them out there. So when you look at all this, I think it's going to be really interesting in a couple of months when Destined Rivals comes out to see, do we have not, I don't know what my numbers are here. Let me just see, 229 listings or 181 listings in TCG Player. Do we have the same number, or do we have 400 listings or 500 listings? It will give us some indication of print runs. Now, we can't just look at that independently, because if there is a huge amount more in demand of Destined Rivals, then that makes a difference. But also, I think that right now, if you're smart, we have to rely on what the Pokemon Center said. And if they really are going to come out and print more of that specific product, which I'm not aware of them ever doing that before, Dan will tell us. I don't know if they've ever done that in actual exclusive ETB. That should maybe hold in check the prices if we get this message out there to everybody that don't go and overpay for this stuff, because at least knowing more stuff is coming ought to hold down those prices a little bit for a while. Dan?
Sorry, I was just texting someone to try and see if I can figure out if there's any truth behind those numbers. So basically, I don't recall a time ever where they've said they're going to reprint a Pokemon Center ETB. I know of there's times where they've restocked them, but I don't know whether that was a full, we're doing another print run. It is potentially just they knew there would be demand for this one, they didn't realize how much, and then they've decided after the fact to do a reprint that they never planned on. The things like ETBs, it's a bit different to just, reprinting a set, because when they're just reprinting a set, it's just printing the cards. We've talked about how Pokemon has their own printing facility for cards now, but Pokemon doesn't have their own facility to be making the dice that go in the ETBs. They don't have the facility to making the sleeves or anything like that. All of that is done, I believe, in China or in different countries and assembled elsewhere. So that is a very different thing to just saying we're going to do a reprint of a set. I imagine the time scale is much, much bigger, which that is why I would think they would cancel orders now and allow people to reorder them later, is because I think if we do get a reprint of this, it's going to be months down the line. It's going to be a big... It might even be after Destined Rivals is already out, which is still 3 months out at this point.
But you see my point, right, Dan? Understanding what you're saying, that's going to lead to a tremendous level of frustration if indeed they do this, and these other people that actually had orders they believed were there, and they don't ultimately get fulfilled because they just decided to cancel and wait and see how it goes down the road. I mean,
yeah, but
wouldn't you rather retain some level of hope? Wouldn't you rather get a message that says, look, because we plan to reprint, but we don't know when, and we still aren't going to guarantee your order, even if they gave us an option, would you like to cancel your order, or would you like to go ahead and wait in a queue and see what happens 3 months from now? I would rather get that email than something else that says you've just been canceled and let's just see how it goes 3 months from now.
Yeah, giving people the option would definitely be better, but I can understand why, as a company, again, we've talked about it with things like setting up lottery systems for every product. It's just another case of a company not seeing the need to put all of that extra time, effort, and money into doing that, because, once you're giving people the option, there's then a lot more that goes on behind the scenes of having to track whose order we're cancelling, who's on the wait list, how many people do we now have on this wait list, that kind of thing. So I can understand why they did it the way they did it.
So, when you say that, to me, it's like you give Pokemon Company the benefit of the doubt. And I know maybe you'll say I don't give them the benefit of the doubt. I just understand why they did it. It's a profit-making company. And the same blah, blah, blah you always, bring to the table, Mr. Business Guy. I'm just fed up with it, Dan, honestly. I don't even know why I do this podcast anymore, other than the fact I've got no one else to talk to except my cat, Luca the cat, that sometimes will pop in on a video, whatever. But the thing is, Dan, this is really frustrating. And we talked about this in our very first video, the scalping and all the rest of it. I am watching all these content creators, and more of them are actually saying people are going to leave the hobby. And again, it isn't going to be you and me. That's not what we're talking about. But we're talking about when you've got millions of people in the queue, literally millions, because everybody knows there's 400,000 to 500,000 legitimate people. The question is, 2 million queue members, again, numbers that they've got ways to see this, out of a country of 330 million or something. I mean, it's a lot of people. So
it's not that many people. I was
well,
in the
you might
queue.
think it's not that many
I was
people,
in the
but
queue on 5 different devices. I was 5
okay,
slots in the queue.
okay.
There's going to be
But
people
this
doing
wasn't a
way more
single.
than that.
Okay, but we're talking about this queue being consistently continuing. This isn't just at one time. And so a lot of the newer people that you want to attract because you're a company that's ongoing and you're an ongoing concern, they are saying it's enough and I'm done, and they're frustrated. And again, and a lot of the content creators are now addressing it and saying, I can actually seeing this being frustrating and making a difference to the hobby, and the company's not doing a good enough job. And these are some of the largest content creators saying this. So I just think that, again, it sure would be nice. I'm not actually was going to start this on a very strong point and say it looks like they're printing more. The one per person is great. The queuing, I understand they're trying to maybe eliminate bots. I think that's all great. But I think they really have to continue to focus on every single decision and its impact on the collector.
I get that, and I understand it definitely is frustrating to people. It's frustrating to me, but we've talked about this. The amount of people getting into Pokemon is growing so quick. We talked about this when we talked about the idea of scalping and is it just scalpers out there? And no, it's not. There are so many more people into Pokemon. And again, I'm sticking on this. I'm having to just come back to this point of profit-making companies. If they gain 10,000 new fans and they lose 1,000 old fans, all they see is that they've got 9,000 fans more. That's just the way it is. There's so many people getting into collecting Pokemon now, and there's so many more people buying it that it's outweighing the amount of people who are leaving the hobby because of this kind of thing. The only way that Pokemon is ever going to take notice, the only way that things are going to change, is if we get to a point where more people are leaving than are joining, and I think we're just so far away from that.
Dan, your cynicism is neither refreshing nor appealing. It's actually disgusting, and I've really had it. But I'm going to keep going at this point, and I appreciate your opinions. We should have a nice, friendly dialogue, even if I don't agree with a single thing you say. But not that I don't, I usually do. Dan, I want to talk about sets, and I want to talk about attention span in this whole thing as well. So you start reading and you start listening to everybody, and again, like I said earlier, Prismatic Evolutions, oh my goodness, what an amazing set. And then here we go, well, no, it's not. It's Journey Together is the one you have to own now. And then we get Destined Rivals because it's a combination of 3 different Japanese sets, and it's Team Rocket again. How do we gauge what really is a good set versus, they're all good sets, but I mean, how do we gauge ultimately when we wake up in a year or two, which is going to be the set that still has resonated like an Evolving Skies or like a 151 with the collector public from a demand perspective? And the reason I ask that is because it has so much to do with whether or not things fade in the buying public's mind so quickly. Like the question I have is, did I make a huge mistake buying Prismatic Evolutions to sit on for a while? Since it seems like that was so hot and I thought that was going to be the best set ever, and now we're already 2 sets past it and nobody cares anymore. We're not really 2 sets past it, but we're moving in that direction. Is it the fact that people's attention spans are so short and all they want is the newest and latest thing? And we see this in vintage. There's so little interest in vintage going back that we just get this new, quick, what's new, and whatever. And so it's going to make a difference waiting down the road to what's available and what's actually in demand anymore.
I don't think it's people's attention span. I think it's marketing. That's the way that the Pokemon Company markets their stuff. It's the way that every other TCG markets their stuff. It's the way that every other company markets their stuff. Once you've got a thing that thing can't be the most exciting anymore. The next thing needs to be the most exciting because you need to buy the next thing. Company can't be satisfied that someone's bought something. They have to get people hyped for the next thing. I mean, literally, just look at this one. The Destined Rivals ETB Journey Together isn't officially out yet. The official release date is this coming Friday. Stores that ran pre-releases were able to sell it from yesterday, from Monday, but Journey Together isn't even officially out yet, and we've already hit pre-orders for the next set. Pokemon just have to make sure that's how they hold their customers, is make sure there's always something they're excited for. Because the moment they're not excited for the next Pokemon set, maybe they look elsewhere. Maybe there's a little bit of attention span thing in that if someone grows sick of Pokemon and goes, oh, I don't want the next Pokemon set, maybe they want the next Magic set, maybe they want the next One Piece set, maybe they want the next Flesh and Blood set, they go and buy that, maybe they're now hooked into that game, and that's where they're spending their money. So I think that the hype trains that go on with the next set is going to be the best set, that's marketing from Pokemon. And when you look at a lot of the content creators, as well, you have to look that Pokemon is now working directly with content creators. There are a lot of these influencer content creators out there who are supplied with stuff by Pokemon. A lot of these videos that you're seeing, it may look on the surface like you have a content creator who is excited to be opening this set and they're saying, oh, this is the best set ever. But if you read the description of their videos, maybe there's a thing in there that says #ad, #free gift. And as soon as you see that, their opinion on that set, is no longer authentic because they're not opening the set and giving their true opinions. They're making an advert for Pokemon. And these lines get blurred here where people will start to look at those content creators, think that it's their true opinion. They start parroting their opinions because these content creators do have a lot of influence. They're influencers. That's literally what they do. And it just snowballs from there, where people are just susceptible to marketing. And over the years, over the past decade, marketing and marketing strategies have evolved so quickly that people don't realize they're being marketed to anymore.
So Dan, I think those are great comments, and I appreciate them. They make a lot of sense to me. I'm going to pin you down a little bit more to the question. I'm going to leave 151 out of the mix just because I understand the concept of 151 and the original Pokemon and that stuff. Okay. And for the most part, other than that, and barely with that, I have no idea what's inside of any of my sets. We just collect everything and we go back every once in a while and look and say, gosh, it's neat that I have that. Dan, why is an Evolving Skies, something like that, so popular and it's now going back a bit? What is in that set relative to the current sets? How can we take that same, paradigm and that model and say this means that this is Prismatic's going to come back and be popular, or Destined Rivals, because it has all of these, SIRs or whatever they call them in there, is going to be more popular? What is some way we can kind of guess as to what's going to be popular going forward, more popular based on certain criteria?
Well, one big thing you can look at is which Pokemon are featured prominently in the set. So Evolving Skies had the evolutions prominently in the set. The big pulls were these alt arts of the evolution VMAXs. That's where we have the parallel to Prismatic Evolutions, where the best pulls are these alt arts or SIRs of the evolutions again. If you look through a lot of sets, you'll often see where if a set is very Charizard focused, it'll often be doing better than other sets around it. I mean, look back to XY era. Look back to Flashfire. Flashfire is doing better than either XY or I think it's Phantom Forces or Furious Fists right after it, because it's a very Charizard-based set. And even if, there's a huge chance that the value of the cards inside a box are never going to outweigh the value of the box now, the same the way that it is with Evolving Skies, to be honest. An Evolving Skies box now, I think literally the only way you could profit by opening the box is if you hit that Umbreon. But once there's some popular cards in a set, it pushes up the hype of the set as a whole, which brings up the sealed product with people. I mean, it's Schrodinger's Umbreon. Basically, every Evolving Skies box might have an Umbreon in it. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things for longevity is the overall popularity of the Pokemon. I think the Team Rockets one, I do think Destined Rivals is going to have more of a longer lifespan or more of a popularity because of the Team Rocket focus. It's something a bit different. It's something they've not done in the TCG for years. You know, Team Rocket hasn't had a set based around them since the EX era. You know, there was the original Team Rocket with WotC, Team Rocket Returns in the EX era, and then I don't think anything was Team Rocket focused until now. So it invokes that nostalgia with people. People like the idea of Team Rocket, so I think that one will do better because of that than, say, like Journey Together. I filmed a whole video of this today opening a case, and I've nearly called it Journey into Nyx every time. That's an old Magic set. It's not called that. Every time I say Journey, I nearly say into Nyx. But I don't think Journey into Nyx... I just did it. I don't think Journey Together is going to be one of these long popularity sets. I think it's very, very hyped right now because it is the new set. There are some very cool cards in there. But as you'll see if you watch my video that at time of recording hasn't been posted but will have been posted by the time you watch this, Journey Together, from a case, you get a big chunk of the set. It's possible with the pull rates to complete Journey Together in 2 cases, which has not been possible for many recent sets. So because of that, I don't think Journey Together is going to be an ongoing long set. But yeah, to get back to the question, give the bullet points, it's about which Pokemon are in the sets, whether they're popular Pokemon. It's about whether the set has some special gimmick or thing that doesn't show up very often. It's about whether the set is something special where there aren't a million other sets like it.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I know people... Just one sec. So what? What do you mean you didn't say Pikachu? What do you mean you didn't say Psyduck? Oh, he said Evolutions? Umbreon? Charizard? Yeah, I'm not happy about it either, guys. Dan, you should try to, widen your horizons a little bit. So, Dan, I'm going to finish up by saying this. I'm not going to be able to articulate this the way that I want to because I'm old and most of the things in my mind have long been forgotten. But this is what my worries are a little bit, or maybe not my worries. Maybe this is what's going to happen long-term in the hobby, and this might be a good thing. You start to look at the sets, and so you look at Surging Sparks, you look at Prismatic Evolutions, you look at Journey Together, whatever you want to call it, because you can't remember the name either, and then you look at Destined Rivals. And we start moving further and further away, just like we did from the previous sets of the previous generations, of the previous year, etc. And you start looking at the fact that there's these listings out there on eBay somewhere, right? And so, there's a Destined Rivals PC ETB or whatever, and right now it's $400. It's going to be $500 until they reprint or don't reprint. But now we wake up in the 30th anniversary next year, and we move on 4 or 5 quarters down the road, or 2 or 3 years down the road. And we're in a situation where people's interest has waned because of a couple things, like you said, from the standpoint of they continue to market Pokemon. This is the next best set. You should be buying this. And people's budgets are strained because maybe they haven't caught up on the printing and stuff. And so we start to look out over a period of time, and you think that maybe that's when you try to go back. Maybe if we could, like, I've never been in agreement with people saying, don't buy from the scalpers, just keep holding off because maybe their prices will come down. We understand it economically, but there's never been that situation supply-wise relative to demand. But I think it could happen. I actually think if Pokemon gets the message and is printing enough of this stuff, that you could, if you just wait, that your chances of something coming down longer term actually overpower the chance of it going up, because people's attention spans and what they're focused on and new sets come around and these other supplies just keep sitting out there. And you start querying your eBay or your TCG Player people, and you say, look, you have this for $350. If you want to sell it, I'll give you $275 or $280. And eventually those people say, yeah, it's been sitting out here for 2 years. I'll go ahead and I'll sell it. I'll take your money. So I just think that that's a possibility if Pokemon can actually continue to print up, and we end up, again, with this kind of what I call it an attention span issue with people, because I think that looking back, it is amazing to me. I can do posts on Instagram every single day. If I post from the EX era, I can get 1,000, views or likes or whatever. If I post from virtually anything else other than base set or something, I'm going to get 200, 300, 150 views. no matter how limited that set was, how limited that era was, diamond and pearl, black and white, etc. Nobody cares. So it's just everybody wants new, and that's kind of where we are. Dan, I'm done. It's time for you to close it up and say what you need to say, because you've always got something on your mind, and I respect that brain of yours that never shuts off.
Well, my brain does need to shut off soon because I had 4 hours sleep last night. I've been up since 4 a.m. I've opened an entire case of Journey Together. I got up, I opened a full case, then I went downstairs, I edited yesterday's video of this, uploaded that, then edited the whole video of Journey Together, which was a 2-hour video, edited down to just over an hour. That's uploading as we're doing this. I have nothing else to say. If you haven't watched that video that came out yesterday with the case, go watch it and then come back. I don't know. We'll see you tomorrow with this one. I need some sleep. Say goodbye, David.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to Koffee Talks with Dan Norton and David Person, with music by More Than Never and artwork by Lore Norton. A special thanks to all of our Patreon members. Join us again next time.
But they don't want you to.